reload we were going to run was actually trying to lift people up, because you don't want to leave anybody behind, especially when you think the person's coming towards you. And that was the hardest thing when Troy told me we can only save the ones that can go with us. We have to leave these people behind.
The Whitney Reynolds Show is supported by Sciton, because results matter. Lee Marcus with At Properties, sold on helping our community and closing homes. O'Connor Law Firm, when it comes to your injuries, we take it personally. Children's Learning Place, excellence in early childhood education since 1998. Happy to meet you, Prime, Fresh, Fast. Theraderm Clinical Skincare, committed to developing skincare products designed to restore skin health and promote natural beauty. Special thanks to Kevin Kelly with Jameson Sotheby International Realty. My Buddies Chicago. Love Your Melon. Brendan Stadzinski at State Farm. Fresh Dental. Ella's Bubbles. UFC Wrigleyville. The Cryo Bar. Bark Busters. Leah Chavi Skincare. Deluxe Cleaning Service. STI Moving and Storage. And by other sponsors.
We've heard their stories, we've seen their faces, and we have felt their pain. Today, however, they are making headlines once again because of how they chose to handle their tragedy. Today, we are talking survivors of violence and mass shootings. You're watching The Whitney Reynolds Show.
What was supposed to be the beginning at a new school turned into a near tragic ending.
I was bleeding out in the grass.
That's Casey Rusager Johnson, who transferred to Columbine High School after having a rocky previous year. Little did she know that those rocks would be the stepping stones that would help her survive.
I went into the library, grabbed a gossip magazine, and sat by a window along the back wall. And it was just a few minutes after sitting down that we started hearing some noises outside, but didn't really know what that was. Some of us turned to look out the window and didn't notice anything in particular until a couple minutes later, a teacher came running in, screaming to get your heads under the tables. There were boys outside with guns to hide. And the panic in her voice, told us that this was actually happening. Because for just a second, I paused and thought, there's no way this is happening. But she was so panicked and so frantic about us hiding and getting down. And then we started hearing the gunshots get closer and closer. And then as the shooters entered into the library, it felt like this rolling came across the floor and hit me in the stomach. And I felt like I just got punched in the stomach. And I feel like it was this evil that came in the room. And as I was praying and got that sick feeling, I felt a hand on my back, just as firm as if I set my hand on your back. And I thought to myself, nobody fits under here with me. And I turned around to look who could be there, and there was no one there. But with the hand came this complete peace and this knowing that I was going to be shot. I knew my turn was coming. And I was okay with whether that meant I was living or dying. I don't feel like I got that message, but I just knew it was coming. And sure enough, about a minute later, I turned over to look around my right shoulder, and the shooter was crouching down about 6 feet behind me, pointing the gun at the boy who hid in the spot beside me. And he killed him and then turned the gun on me. And I remember hearing the shot that actually hit the back of this shoulder. He was going for a headshot, but the way I was crouching and plugging my ears like this, it hit my shoulder and came through my hand and then straight across my neck. And as I fell forward, he told me to quit my complaining, but he used very different language than that. And I thought, he's going to shoot me again if he doesn't believe I'm already dead. So I quit breathing and closed my eyes and waited for him to move on, and he did.
Although she still lives with PTSD, continued surgeries, and a donated bone, she knows she is here for a reason.
I never would have had the courage as a little girl to choose the story that I've lived, ever. I don't know who would pick my story. But so much purpose has come from it. And it's taken me a long time to learn how to use it for purpose going forward. And knowing that it's going to impact another life positively. Maybe somebody else who's having a hard time can hear my story and be encouraged through their difficult time. And maybe it'll save a life.
Columbine is actually a day as a teenager that I remember. For the first time, I was extremely fearful of my surroundings. Luckily for me, that headline seemed far away. Our next guest, however, is living in the lead story.
Living. I was trying to live. I just like living. Like, I love living. Like, it don't matter where I live at or how I live. Like, even if I be homeless, I'll still be happy that I'm here, you know?
That's Denzel, a born and raised Chicagoan who grew up on the South Side. From January to July, Chicago had over 2,000 people shot. One of those was Denzel. Sadly, this is a common story for this city.
But I know about it because I lived there for so long. But if you talk to the people I talk to, like my friend, he got shot first. Like, he got shot 2 months ago in the arm. But he wasn't doing nothing. He probably was partying a little, but he said a guy was in the corner arguing with another guy, and they just let a shot in the air, and I guess the bullet came down or whatnot and hit him in his arm.
Unlike other mass shootings that have made past news, the shooter in this case and dozens others are still unknown.
That's the crazy part about it. Like, I don't even want to know who they are. Like, for real. Like, I don't, because I know it's not going to turn out. Even if I want to talk to them, you know, it might not turn out the right way. But that's, you know, a life you could have took. And that's what we need to fix in Chicago. There's gun violence, police brutality, you know, open up more opportunities for kids like me.
The bullets not only struck his body 5 times, but also struck a chord that he knew must be shared.
We need help, you know? We need help. And we need more programs and more opportunities.
Denzel is no stranger to speaking up and speaking out. He is a member of CHAMPS, a male mentoring program that stands for Culturally Helping and Making Positive Success.
I seek positivity. I want to change the world, like, for real. Like, we just need more money to come in. Investments, you know, endorsements, especially with my mentoring that's going on, CHAMPS. I don't know if you heard of them, but CHAMPS stand for Culturally Helping and Making Positive Success. That's all I'm about. That's all we're about, is just making positive success, changing the world.
This survival story is one that not only has him physically walking again, but also running with purpose.
I am now joined by another Chicagoan who knows the stories of shootings in Chicago. In fact, hers is also personal. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
You know, we just watched Denzel's package piece, and Denzel's from Chicago, and Chicago might not be on the charts of mass shootings, but you have a very personal connection with shootings in this area.
Yes. With my Justin and just seeing the cumulative numbers every year, we are seeing the massive amounts with the total year-round homicides that we have in Chicago. Although we're not considered massive shootings, but our total average is the same, just the same.
And tell us the story of your son.
My Justin was very, very bright, very athletic, still discovering his future, what he wanted to be when he grew up, and just all these things. So he went to San Diego to go to school, and he was in town for the holidays, and he got off the plane. He was at my mother's house, and he was outside with some other boys, some of the family members, standing outside, and he was shot. He was gunned down in front of his grandmother's house. I received a call that he had been shot, and I needed to go to the hospital right away. So I'm praying, you know, and I couldn't fix it. I couldn't I couldn't prepare myself to tell my then daughter, his younger sister, my older son, Philip, that I didn't protect him. I didn't do my job to make sure he was safe. I don't think it's different, even though it's been coming on the 8th year, the impact of the violence and how the violence has pierced our community and the lack of response that we get sometimes on a national level and even on a local level.
You know, that is such a hard story to have to relive and replay. And as a mom, my heart is just with you right now, even having to walk through those details. Today's show is survivors of gun violence and mass shootings. So here you are, a mom, and you had to survive even with the loss of a son. How have you tried to keep going in his honor?
Well, the gun buyback that I was planning before he was killed, the input that talking to the neighborhood and doing research as to what makes people want to feel like they want to turn in a gun, and living in that environment of hearing the gunshots, that just outraged me to make me want to do something.
Do you think there is a one key solution to gun violence and mass shootings? Or is it one of those things that each story kind of has its own impact and it helps shape the future?
It's traumatic by its own right in any regard of it. However, it all plays into the abuse or the mishandling of guns. So we have to look at sensible ways to encompass guns or not to have them at all in this country. And people get so outraged, but the damage is already done. I mean, we're talking about homicides today, but what about suicides? So these guns have been the only common denominator in all of these experiences.
And your kids, how have they coped with moving forward after losing a brother?
They have had their bouts emotionally. It's been really hard for me. It's one thing to parent your kid, but to parent in a way that you have to supersede your own grief to help your child. I can honestly say that it's been very hard for me. I can't say that as much as I speak about it, as much as I talk about the violence and I sound so well put together and not breaking down, it has taken a toll and it has been a very emotional battle. But we're together and we try to stay together in love. But I would love to see the community look at having additional resources under the mental health guidelines as well.
As of this taping, 58 children have been shot in Chicago. What is your feeling on that?
Well, first of all, I want to say that my hearts and prayers go out to the family members of 58 children, 58 potential lives that were changed because of gun violence, and the reality and the seriousness of gun violence and how on our day-to-day life it's affecting everyone. I can speak in a room and I can ask, do you know anyone in your family or anyone whose family member has been killed? It's only 2 questions before somebody will be able to identify with it.
Wow.
And those 58 children mean something. And the only thing that the Chicagoland area can do is to actively do their part to get involved in organizations that are fighting against gun violence. Talk to their political officials about putting money and resources behind ending the gun violence and make it a priority.
You've really helped us understand this better today, and I'm so sorry that it's under the circumstances of your son. Is there anything else you'd want us to know about just Justin and his life and his legacy?
Justin was such an energetic, active, very funny, loving, young man that influenced me to continue my work in the community. He was always very supportive of the things that I've done, and he inspired me. Seeing these things happen, I really feel that I have to do something more than just advocate and talk about it. I want to be a part of the change.
Wow, that's beautiful. Well, thank you so much for coming on.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Next up, we head to Las Vegas.
It was Shannon's final chemo, and to celebrate, the Zemans, along with their friends, decided on a country concert in Las Vegas.
My girlfriend and I, Jenny, were out there dancing, just having a great time. Troy and our friend Jesse were being the wonderful husbands, and we're at the bar getting us more drinks, probably like almost last call. And all of a sudden, I heard a few random sounds, and what I thought was, because it was coming to the close of the venue, they were fireworks that we were going to see them over the stage. And they didn't happen. But Jason Aldean's still singing and dancing. We're still singing it. You just never think like somebody's shooting at us, right? So you just keep on going. Second barrage came down, and all of a sudden Jason Aldean runs off the stage. Floodlights go on, and we've got about 7,000 people up in front of us that are now turning around and running towards us. And I'm just going to be honest, I still didn't think we were being shot at. Why would I ever think someone is shooting at us?
Little did Shannon know that she'd be fighting for her life again, this time with her husband Troy, their friends, and thousands of other concert goers.
He was in a sniper position, so he was very far away from us and inside of a building. It's not a normal sound for gunfire. So the first barrage came down, and no, I did not recognize it as gunfire, but I knew that something was weird. I didn't hear it and perceive it the same way Shannon did. It didn't sound like fireworks, but it also didn't sound like me shooting guns on the range. And the guns that he was using, we use in law enforcement, so it definitely didn't sound that way. And immediately after the popping noises came a ticking sound. And so I was trying to figure out what that ticking sound was. And as I turned around and looked in the direction of the crowd, I could see the second barrage actually come down from elevated position. And that was when I realized, okay, we got to get out of here. It's worse than we would want it to be.
And so when he told us at the next reload we were going to run, it was actually trying to lift people up, because you don't want to leave anybody behind, especially when you think the person's coming towards you. And that was the hardest thing when Troy told me we can only save the ones that can go with us. We have to leave these people behind. And so that was, I think, still is. I can still see those faces.
58 people were murdered that day, and hundreds others were injured. Troy was shot in the leg. However, his recovery was more than that wound.
Months later, I had a big breakthrough of emotion, and that was leaving people, and how can I help more people to be able to beat or defeat a bad person like that. So that was difficult for me.
Still is.
And out of that sadness, an idea was formed. The couple that had left for Las Vegas to celebrate life is now on an extended journey to save lives.
Troy and I have started a company where we actually go to businesses, communities, churches, schools, whoever would like us to come, and we do safe training of active shooter preparedness.
We actually do it in a civilian format, not a police or military format, which makes it much better for kids, and it makes it much better for adults who have already experienced some traumatic events. So this new way of life and addressing my training and my experience to people is how I'm going to help those people.
Today's guest did not choose what happened to them. However, our next guest chose to be there for them. He chose to make an impact on lives he didn't even know. Let's take a look.
We met a few years ago. He was spreading crosses. Crosses for people he didn't even know. However, he knew that their life mattered. Greg Zanis, also known as the Cross Man, made over 27,000 crosses in his lifetime, mostly done out of his own pocketbook. In 1999, he was at Columbine, and in 2017, he drove to Vegas. Year after year, shooting after shooting, he showed up, bringing light to some of the darkest days.
Sadly, Greg is not on set with us today. He passed away from cancer. However, before he passed, he wrote a book, and his writer is here on set with us. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So let's talk about the book that you wrote about Greg and all of his work that he's done, because he impacted so many lives.
Yeah, he did. He started doing his mission, I call it, or his ministry, when his father-in-law was murdered. And his father-in-law was his best friend. And that was in 1997. And then Columbine happened, and it moved him to decide to go out to Columbine. And he went out, didn't tell anybody who he was, what he was doing. He just put up all these crosses.
So Greg Zanis impacted so many strangers. Why did he feel compelled to do these crosses for these horrific shootings that we saw on TV?
So when he put up his first cross, he discovered that people had a focal point to stand around, to leave a memorial. And then when he started to putting up more and more crosses, like if there was a car accident or something, he learned that they had a place to grieve. And then he started doing the large shootings, and it helped people. He would do prayer vigils with them, and it helped people to get rid of their...
Yeah, to kind of heal in a way. Now, you got to know Greg very well through the book. You wrote the book, and you said it came out how many days before he died?
It came out the 25th of April, and he died on May 4th.
What was that moment like when he saw his life kind of play out in a book of everything he had done for people that he didn't even know?
When I brought him the books, he was so excited, but he was very sick. But he was so excited, and he kissed the books. And he cried, and we all cried, and he was so happy to have them. And then his family did almost like an early funeral, and they did a drive-by. There were 350 people drove through his property with signs and thank yous and we love you and things like that. He didn't get to see half of it, but he was excited.
Well, it's amazing because he impacted so many lives. As we were working on this show, we were talking to, the different victims that have been impacted by these shootings, and they all remember the crosses. Their journey to healing involved the crosses. And he had impact beyond what he even probably realized.
And he got nothing for it. Not a dime. He just did it out of love and kindness and compassion.
That is truly amazing. Well, thank you for coming on and helping us honor Greg that helped so many heal.
Thank you.
Today's stories might have brought up painful headlines from the past. However, what's different about the headline today is that it offers hope. Hope that in the midst of tragedy, we can still move forward, and that our wounds can heal, and that our scars can potentially impact a positive future. Remember, your story matters.
The Whitney Reynolds Show is supported by Sciton because results matter. Lee Marcus with At Properties, sold on helping our community and closing homes. O'Connor Law Firm, when it comes to your injuries, we take it personally. Children's Learning Place, excellence in early childhood education since 1998. Happy to meet you, Prime, Fresh, Fast. Theraderm Clinical Skincare, committed to developing skincare products designed to restore skin health and promote natural beauty. Special thanks to Kevin Kelly with Jameson Sotheby International Realty. My Buddies Chicago. Love Your Melon. Brendan Studzinski at State Farm. Fresh Dental. Ella's Bubbles. UFC Wrigleyville. The Cryo Bar. Bark Busters. Leah Chavi Skincare. Deluxe Cleaning Service. STI Moving and Storage. And by other sponsors. Go beyond the interview with Whitney Reynolds and her 52-week guide of inspiration. The book goes deeper into the topics you see on The Whitney Reynolds Show. To get your copy for $12.95 plus shipping and handling, go to whitneyreynolds.com/store and use code PBS. For more information on today's program, visit whitneyreynolds.com or follow us on social media. On Twitter @Whitney Reynolds and on Instagram @Whitney_Reynolds.